my name is Nala Hakbin. I'm the founder of Avec, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited to have you here. In today's video, I wanted to share with you a personal story of my journey of how I have been growing and learning, or actually how I even got into yoga in the first place, really. So within the Baha'i faith, which is my dearly cherished love, we have this spiritual principle where mothers are the first educators of the child. And I was the only girl in the family growing up. I have two older brothers. And so this spiritual principle was really like hammered into me at a very young age. And that, you know, like this kind of priming of like, when you grow up to be a mother, you're going to be the first educator. So the expectation also of me of being this first educator of a child, future child, really got me searching like deep to be like, oh my gosh, if this is like a real spiritual principle. And it was something that I really resonated with. It wasn't something that I just took for face value, but it was something that I really knew just from direct experience of how much my own mother affects me and how her thoughts, her ideas, her belief systems influence me. I could tell that it wasn't just, you know, like an external sort of educating, but it was also like another spiritual quote is that like through the breast milk of the mother, like there are certain virtues that children can develop. And I will leave all of those original quotes down below so that you have them. And that kind of got me really searching and seeing. And to be real, like, you know, when I would look at motherhood or like from other people, they looked exhausted and they like were not happy. And they were just like always just like complaining, or there was always something that was there. And I looked at this and I was like, what? You want me to do this? Like, this looks awful. Like, I don't want to do this. And I was thinking, like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. Like, what is it that makes people get into this phase or to this idea where it's just like being a mother is so awful or so horrible, or they're just exhausted and tired? Like, where is the truth? Is this where is the reality? Like, is it actually like this? Because not everyone was like that. So I basically began on a search of really looking deep into this. And this began at a very, like, this was my early teens. Like, I was like 16, 17 when I got serious about looking into, I'm like, okay, if I'm the first educator of my child, like, I gotta get it together. Like, my parents had more expectation of me of having higher levels of education than my brothers. Like, they didn't have so much expectation. They were just like, get a degree, get a job, go out there. But for me, it was just like all the way, like, and of multiple disciplines. It was not just one, it was of several. Because one of the things within the Baha'i faith is that if you have multiple children and you have only money for one child, you would give it to the girl and not the boy, because of the spiritual principle that the woman is the first educator. So even though my parents were not to that point where they could not afford education for any of their children, it's like all of the expectation for me in particular was greatly different than my brothers. They had much lower expectations. But for me, they were like, you're going to be the mother, you're going to like educate your children. Like, that level of like what you know is going to be what you're going to be passing on to your children. And so for me, like, when it came to also studying more about the writings of like what it talked about, was that education didn't just stop in like book learning. It had to do with human knowledge. It had to do with physical knowledge, knowing about the health of the body. It had to do with spiritual knowledge. So it was just like, oh my gosh, there's even more things that I need to know in order to like pass that on and educate my child. Like, there's so much. Like, I'm like, why was I given this like plate basically for this life? But, you know, in my explorations, like, as I was getting older and I was learning more things, I was learning several things about motherhood from people that I was starting to slowly like distinguish a little bit more and more of like what are aspects of motherhood that people are just like obscured, like they're just making stuff up that they have to do, or that why is it it's making them, the whole situation so difficult, and then what are some other things that really is like lacking, or like where is it that they need to grow, right? And so I was really, my observation, my eyes were open at all times, observing, okay, like what is this situation? What is this? How can I do this better? And I'm still on that hunt. I'm still on that hunt, and I still am learning like constantly, daily. But then it got to a point where I started learning some themes of that. There were general themes of like the fact that some women find it really difficult to ask for help. This is a huge burden on all these things. Like imagine I have all of these expectations, or family expectations of me, or even expectations of myself, and then in addition to that, not ask for help. Oh my gosh, I would lose my mind. Like, you know, like I get it. It's not something that would be difficult for me to see why some women would find like motherhood so challenging. Like it's like, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Like I'm there with you, sister. Like I don't even need to have a baby yet to know that, but I feel you right there. And so like when I think, so then there were some other things where I started noticing, this is where yoga came in for me. This is really where I started learning more about yoga, because I was thinking, okay, like, you know, like motherhood, there's like legitimate physical constraints on the body. Like you're exhausted in the first couple of years, like, you know, like literally stamina. Okay, I'm like, so what do you do with stamina? I'm like, that's literally like biology. You can't really do anything about it. Like, what is there to do to help that situation? And that's where like the yogic tools that I was learning along the way was really informing me that, okay, there is a way. There is a way to like hack the system. There is a way to like kind of learn ways in which for you to do it. It doesn't mean that it's going to go away entirely, but there's so many things that one could do to like really self-care in the process, in the marathon of motherhood. And that was something that I was really interested in learning. I'm like, I want to be so equipped, because when I'm in that situation, I'm not going to have the energy of like going and searching for things. I probably will. I probably will be. And all the women that I've interviewed in their pregnancies, when the baby has come, and all of these things, the learning has not stopped. But I wanted, because I knew that was going to be a difficult time in my life, I wanted to make sure that all the things that I could do beforehand to make sure that I'm ready as much as I can, as much as I have the awareness and wisdom at this present moment, that I would do that. And then, you know, then just all the difficulties that would come up as the child would come, then like deal with that, the reality of it, which is there is a reality point where there's some things that cannot be done. But it's really about something that I've learned along the way, is that it's really about the mindset. And it's really about, and actually one really important thing that I learned, oh my gosh, this was really the game changer, is that within a family dynamic, usually the parents, all of their focus is on the child. But in reality, what is the most important, this is like the third most important relationship, is like the parents and the child. The second most important thing is actually the relationship between the man and the woman. And the first relationship is actually the relationship that both these parties have with themselves. And this is really what the yogic path is about. It's really about getting to know yourself, so that when you're in a situation with your child and they're triggering you, and they will trigger you, and they're like getting you to think about all these things, or you start realizing that everything you say, they're just gonna mirror forth and just like carbon copy it. And then you see your child do that, and you're like, I don't want them to do that. Like, that's not good. But then I do that. So why do I do that? Where did I get this from? This self-reflection, this going inside and really reflecting and going back, that is really the area where I have observed, at least in many parents, is that the focus becomes so attached to the child, which, let's be real, there's a lot of emphasis there, but then not giving attention to the marriage, or then not giving attention mostly to themselves. Because if we're going to be constantly reflect within the marriage and within the children family dynamic, constantly yourself is reflected back to you, and you don't like those parts of yourself, and you haven't had any time to deal with them, boom, explosions upon explosions upon explosions. And it doesn't mean, even if you know that those explosions don't occur, it just means that at least in that moment, you got at least a second to think about it and to be like, I noticed this pattern. Interesting, it's coming up again. Oh, look at that. And that's something that I can, choose in how I respond rather than react. I mean, there's so many things that I've learned along the way, and so far I still have not had that experience to use all these tools yet. But something that I've learned along the way is that I've been sharing everything that I've learned with other parents, and they have found it super helpful. And so I know that these are some things that, okay, I'm so it's not random searches that I've been finding, that it's actually been, they've used it and they've proved it, and they come back to me and they're like, no, this was the best thing you've ever told me about. And so I have some sort of confidence in that, not only were the searches that I did for myself not in vain, thanks guys, thanks all the parents that have given me that confirmation, but also it's helped other people in their process of individual growth. And something that I've learned is that parenthood is really not about learning all of these multitudes of skills in how to treat your child, or learning all the books of how to treat your child. As this has been the majority of thing that has been shared with me with parents, is that every single one of my children are different. It's any one of these books is talking about totally different things. So even if you read all these books, at the end of the day, you have to throw the manual away because the child is so different, or you need to be present. You need to be in the moment to witness your child, to see what you need to give them. And that is not something that can be educated other than knowing yourself first. Being able to be present, which a lot of people are not because of exhaustion, because of the stress they're on. There's so many things. So really the tools that people spend so much time learning in parenthood is actually really, it's about sharpening your own intuition, working on your own meditation, so that knowing yourself so well, so that when you're in a situation, in any situation, you're able to react within that moment based on the current situation, and you're not playing out an old pattern, you're not playing out an old wound, you're not acting in a way where it's you can totally tell that your reaction was not even relevant to the situation. Boy, do we all we all have been in a situation like that, right? And so if we want to avoid those situations, and we want to consciously parent other people, or other these new beings that are coming in, and really actually being in that observer learning mode and seeing how the child is reacting or needing or craving or wanting or desiring in that moment, is that we as parents would be able to assist them and facilitate them. And something that I've come to learn is that those skills really actually go back into self-inquiry, reflection, learning about the mind, how it works, so that when you're in that moment, you can be present, right? And so these are so far the things that I've learned on this journey of parenthood. And I've come to a point along in my journey where I really need to share this more often. And I'll be honest with you, it's been a challenge, primarily because I am not yet a parent, and that I not only have this mental block that because I'm not a parent, people might not take me seriously, or people have actually verbalized with me that if you're not a parent, then why do you know all these things? Or like, you don't know anything. And so, but it's something I've come to learn that I've helped enough people that I know that what I have to share is really valuable. And I'm not at that point to hear like the naysayers' voices. And I'm here to just help those people who really do want to just grow and who really do want to just uplift themselves. And something even more interesting in this individual search of mine of how to become a parent or future parent myself, I've learned that actually this is quite interwoven with one of the purposes that I have in this life, which is to actually help parents in facilitating this role with children. And so it actually goes beyond me and what I wanted to know. And this is something that over time I've had to learn and really had to mature and grow in. And I just want to let the world know, basically, I'm ready. I'm ready now to really share these skills in like a greater way with everyone. And this is actually why in a previous video that I shared is that Yoga Avec Moi is starting a Mama Circle membership site where we can explore themes on motherhood, on parenthood, on things of like the soul and how we're gonna grow. Speaking of children, these are my mom's students. Hey, this is what happens when you start a YouTube channel. Reality hits, right? Even if they're not your kids. Even if they're not your kids. And so what I wanted to share was that this Mama Circle is happening, and I will share all the links down below. And I really wanted to provide a space that we could explore online of like women coming together and exploring themes of not only womanhood, motherhood, but also of the self, of the individual soul, and how that entity can really be protected when it comes to the family dynamic, and really learning how to go back into yourself and really learning how to like grow and develop in that way. And so, hope you like this video, and please subscribe to my channel. And if you like videos like this, there will be more coming. If you sign up on the Mama Circle within May, you will get also a bonus of the Pure Breath program. So that is something that we've been working on for like the past 12 weeks, which has been really wonderful. And so I really hope you guys actually get that program, because that's going to be a major chunk of tool that I'm probably going to talk about over and over again that we have. And so I just was like, you know, the early birds signups of Mama Circle are just going to get it for, like, they're just going to get that bonus, because it's going to be so in the core of what we talk about that I just really want to make sure that you guys have it. So I hope you guys liked this video, and and I hope you guys enjoyed the little peek into my own personal journey of like what motherhood was, or still in growing and learning. And I actually really hope to actually be learning even more with this membership portal, and having this like exploring themes together systematically together. I'm like so excited for it. So, and I will see you in the next video.